Hello there, this is Uplifting Post Tower. Today we are going to take a look at the Type 68 standard school buildings. Now, as the name suggests, this design dates back to the late 1960s. Now, before we get into this thing, we have to take a look at the Schuster type school buildings. This design of school building comes without corridors. It just features staircases and the classrooms themselves. The idea is to have windows on both sides, allowing for more daylight to come in. In fact, this style of building is older than the Type 68. This here is a Type 65 building that follows the same idea, but the Type 68 one takes us on a whole new level of efficiency. The main Type 68 building is, of course, the Double H building. It features 2 staircases and classrooms that are connected to these. Now, if you're on the second floor at one part of the building and want to change to the other, you have to go down to the ground floor first because the classrooms are not connected together. This is what a Type 68 Double H building usually looks like. Alright, the Type 68 standard school buildings feature more buildings than just the Double H. And the other buildings certainly do not follow the Schuster style design. This is the 2-story entrance building, or Eingangszentrum as it is called in German. The next building we are going to take a closer look at is the senior classes building, or the building for the 6th form. It features several classrooms and a main staircase that goes up to the 1st floor. And now the next building is where things get really interesting, as this is the one for scientific subjects. Biology, physics, you get the deal. This is the only building that always used to have an elevator since it's been built, and it was a freight elevator. Now, things have changed a lot over the time. Some of the elevators have been turned into dumbwaiters, others have been completely replaced, but there were still a few original elevators left. And this one here is just one example. These elevators are locked off, and if no one uses them, they lock their doors as if they would go away, but they don't. They just lock the doors and leave it that way. And now, there's also a second sort of building for the classrooms for scientific subjects, but it looks really much like the senior class building, and it does not feature an elevator. If it has got an elevator, then it has been added on later. Some of these buildings have even been extended at the ground floor. And the last one of the Type 68 standard school buildings is the sport halls, and there are 2 standard designs available for this. One very big and one quite small sports hall, of which I do not have got a picture about. And now, here's the topic that I actually wanted to talk about in the first place: accessibility. And you might have already noticed the problem here. Due to the many staircases that these buildings have, it is really expensive to add a lot of elevators to make these buildings accessible. But let me name a few examples here. The easiest one to add accessibility to is, of course, the building for the scientific subjects, as it already has got an elevator, which, as we know, is not really accessible, but it can be replaced with an accessible elevator. But it is much harder to add accessibility to a Double H building though, as you have to add 2 elevators if you do not want to change anything else to the architecture, that is. When it comes to the senior class buildings, the only thing that you have to do there is to remove a small section of the corridor on the 1st floor, which then allows you to add an elevator next to the staircase. When it comes to the entrance building, I think it's just best to add an elevator outside the building and attach it to the building by a bridge. As I mentioned, in the future there will be videos on my channel that show you how accessibility gets added to these buildings. Now, before we close this video, got to mention that the sports halls are already single floor buildings, so they are pretty much accessible. Alright, that's it then. Thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you got anything to say about these buildings, and I'm sure there's quite a lot of things that I missed out on here, tell me in the comments, let me know. I always like to learn more about this stuff. Alright, see you in the next video.